some of these big thinkers that help you kind of get out of the box that we get forced into. And I think that there's a lot of pride and obsessive nature of control that dentists take in their profession. And so we try to box each other in. And the truth is a lot of us have incredible practices, and it all comes down to what our patients say about us.
You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Johnson. We're about ready to interview our guest on Everyday Practices here, Dr. Dwight Peccora. Dr. Dwight has graduated from the UT School of Dentistry in 2010 and partnered at the existing Fort Bend Dental in Missouri City, Texas, outside of Houston. Dwight had a dream of developing a group practice that prioritized quality, comprehensive care with all general and specialty care under one roof. Over the last 6 years, Dwight has developed one mega practice in Missouri City with 10,000 square feet, with 3 other locations throughout the Houston, Texas area to bring about access to this level of care for the greater Houston area. He has taken the original Fort Bend Dental from $1.7 million, just surpassing $9 million among all locations as they onboard their 4th location this winter in the hub and spoke model of practices. Let's get started on the podcast. Dr. Dwight Peccora today. Doctor, how you doing?
Doing amazing. Thank you for having me.
Right on. So you are down in Texas, and how many docs right now are you at? And like, tell us kind of your background on like how many offices you have, like what, kind of give us some stats.
Yeah.
So that way everyone can feel inferior, you know?
No, I don't think
kidding.
that's the case. We are, absolutely. Southwest side of Houston, well, in Houston, Texas. Our main headquarters is in Missouri City, which is a part of Fort Bend County, one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. Fort Bend Dental is the forward name. We've got Missouri City is a 10,000 square foot, 16 operatory headquartered facility. And I say headquartered because it's primarily patient care private practice. It also has a wing that's specifically for support services for operations and accounting and HR and all these other support items for this location and for our other locations. And it also has a CE facility within it.
No kidding.
So
cool.
That's in that main facility. The other location is in Richmond, Texas, which is also within Fort Bend County. That location we've had it for a few years and it's been growing and expanding as well. It's not quite as large. It's probably about 4,000 square feet. And then we have one in Houston, Texas, different name, but different brand, but has been there now we've had that since 2011. So I started with I came out to Fort Bend Dental, which was already established since 1987. I came out here to the Missouri City original location in 2010, right when I graduated out of dental school, actually. And
I'm glad you said that 2010 was your graduation year, because I know our listeners can't see you, but I was like, 2011, you're a baby. How did you do that?
No, I was super blessed to be able to like come out of dental school and go have heads to talk to, right? Because all of us, if you see dental school as kind of as y'all like to say, you see it as the finish line, you're in trouble. You got to see it as the starting line when you finish dental school. And so I came out and got it. I was looking for a group practice. I wanted to be able to ask questions and kind of see where we were going. And then as I came in, it was a smaller size practice for sure, but there were 3 total docs at the time. And it was a very well connected, original old school practice of just like, hey, we're here for a community. We live in our community and we're here for them 24/7. And we're just super entangled in the community. And there was just, my most important things were good quality dentistry, camaraderie, and belief in that. That's the purpose why we're here, is to serve the community, not to build off of revenue. And so I wanted to join that and be a part of that. And so I did. In 2010, I came out, was an associate for a couple of years. And then it was about like a $1.6 million practice. Nothing crazy. It was very simple bread and butter dentistry. Today, over the last 10 years, I'd simply say that what we did was I focused on becoming managing partner in about 2012, 2013, right in that time frame. mostly because I wanted to help develop a model that allowed us to give more access to care to patients and to increase the comprehensive nature of care, right? So we kind of took it to change the model into a sense of high level of education. Now that it was more readily available, you could go and learn and have fellowships, masterships, and diplomats in all areas of specialty care dentistry and general dentistry. And that facility, or that practice, now sits in this 10,000 square foot facility where we do all general dentistry and all specialty care under one roof. In 2012, we took on the Richmond location. 2011, we took on the Houston location. And it was something that continued to develop based on a sense of camaraderie amongst the doctors that say, hey, we want to grow together and we want to hold each other accountable, while at the same time bringing in the team and saying, at the end of the day, if we focus on being kind of the best possible team for dentistry, we know that the rest will come. And
okay,
so we've been very blessed.
Like 100% CEO, like owner, everything, like define kind of how that looks, or do you have like some of the associates bought in? Correct. Or like, how does that work for your structure?
Yeah. So right now, as a managing partner, I help run the management piece of all those practices. And under the separate holding company where the individual practices are, all doctors have a chance to buy in and become owners. We believe that the doctor who owns a part of the door frame that they walk under every day to serve patients is going to do a higher level of quality of patient care just by nature of believing that they're an owner and part of it. And so we do create that track and that model. There's currently actually 5 partners now, which is exciting. And we are all minority shareholders in the process. We do that on purpose because we believe that, you know, you don't want to create this structure where you're kind of chasing how to maintain it. And we just believe that together we can do more and serve more patients and kind of impact more lives and go through it that way than just being, hey, I'm the main owner and y'all do what I want to do. We create tracks for partnership for everybody. And there's everything from 30% owner to 5% owner and everything kind of in between. And so we kind of built it that way to be able to do that. And today we're passing our 8 million mark annually, and we're blessed to continue to kind of reach that. We're on par. This year we've recovered really, really well, and we're blessed to do it. So we're hoping to kind of get close to the 9 this year and go from there. So it's
in a tough year too.
It has been a tough year. And as of next month, we are actually opening another location nearby in Grand Parkway area of this county. And so we'll be adding another location in the meantime as well.
Very cool. Regan, I have one more question and then I'll back off from hawking.
But just fine.
But you know, I was kind of curious with the structure set up and everything like that. Has the DEO, the Dentist Entrepreneur Organization, has that helped you form how you are and who you are and everything like that? Or are you kind of walking into that going, guys, I got this, but you know, like I'm still learning from you. I mean, how much of this was you know, efficiently structured by DEO mastermind, you know, bouncing that off of you know, fellow DEO people versus like, no, I already kind of had that figured out. How's that look for you?
So background wise, I've owned and built computer programming companies and 2 outsourcing companies and a couple of dental labs. So I had some business background, yes, but I was truly blessed in that I came into dentistry at a time where people believed in, like you all, podcasts, making themselves vulnerable, believing that we can do better in dentistry. I like to say that dentistry was like in the medieval ages, like 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. Like it's progressed so much. And it's because others have been willing to say, I did it this way, you did it that way. We shouldn't each have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm real big on collecting thoughts. So yes, the DEO was a great influencer for me, sitting and working with them. I've worked just more so in knowing so many different types of models and realizing that this red ocean of competitiveness is actually not that red. It's actually relatively blue. And it's just a matter of finding your avatar of type of patient you want to seek and serve, focusing on that. We tend to, as dentists, being very hypersensitive to wanting to do a little bit of everything. And that focus was driven there. And they did a great job of kind of helping with that. I've worked with other big groups, Productive Dentist Academy. Y'all have been incredible in making sure in the training and development. I try to talk about Productive Dentist Academy as saying, you help my team mature in their thinking, even though they may not mature because it takes time to mature and through experience, but you mature in their thinking. They think about others and the whole team as opposed to thinking about themselves. That was something, and other groups that I've worked with. I mean, even before then, we've worked with Living Group. We've worked with. The truth is I've done a lot of getting out of dental school and believing that I need a coach, and I believe that everybody on my team needs a coach, and that's been a big trigger of success. And I would say that a lot of the time I don't do a lot of my training in dental. Right. I do a lot of my training outside of dental and regular business training, and working with people like Alex Sharfin, who's become a close friend. I've worked with him for a long time. Some of these big thinkers that help you kind of get out of the box that we get forced into. And I think that there's a lot of pride and obsessive nature of control that dentists take in their profession. And so we try to box each other in. And the truth is a lot of us have incredible practices, and it all comes down to what our patients say about us and our team. And so that's really the crux of how we've been able to grow. We've absolutely focused on, I guess my summary is, we've focused on building an incredible team that loves to get up every day and go to work. And that is not easy. It's the hardest thing we do. But then we also happen to do dentistry. And so we focused on building a team, not so much on building a dental office.
Well, honestly, it sounds like dentistry is your side shuffle.
I'm blessed to be able to build teams, man, because it is my joy. That's what gets me up every day. There's no doubt about it. But dentistry is fun on the side, but I agree.
Right. I know. It's like he's a hustler in this dentistry as a side hustle. You're just like, oh yeah, I've been doing, these other companies. Help me out though. Who's Alex Sharfin or whatever? I don't know that name.
Yeah, Alex is so he's a big thinker when it comes to, he writes a book called The Entrepreneur Personality Type. And his EPT structure, and he's in charge of something called it's a stressful name for those who are not in healthcare and where they're hard on the wrist. It's actually the billionaire code, because people think that it's about becoming a billionaire. It's not. It's about all the stresses and strains that your business takes in being a $1 million company, 1 to 2 million, 2 to 5 to 10, and all the way up to $1 billion, and how you work on different portions of your company at different times to be able to stage it out, so that as Dwight likes to say, I'm always saying, do not build an elephant on giraffe legs. And I'm always quoted as saying that because I'm obsessive about infrastructure, because your team needs to know. I mean, at the top of the board behind me, it always says, is the business safe and okay? Because at the end of the day, it's about the people that live their livelihood off of this company. And if we don't know how to build infrastructure as you grow, you end up creating a tremendous amount of risk for people, which I think most of society has definitely learned in 2020 with COVID. And it's one of those impacts that we really need to hyper focus on and be prepared for. So that's why I've worked with people like Alex, huge influence for me, and great dude.
On a small level, he sounds a lot like the 1 minute crown prep, where it's not so much about the 1 minute crown prep. It's about the idea of efficiency. And when you said the billionaire code, it scares you because it's not about the billion. It's about the mindset of logarithmic growth and how to build the structure around that. When I hear people, knock on the minute crown prep kind of stuff, it's like, well, I've heard him on YouTube himself say, it doesn't matter if you however long you can take as long as you want. That's not the point. It's like, are you being efficient in how you rock it out? So I'm done hogging Reagan. This is gonna a whole Chad Johnson show with Dwight.
This is going to be probably a 2 or 3-part series. I'm going to call it right now. I bet there's so much to unpack with what you just said, Dwight. This is it's enormous. I can relate personally, absolutely, to what you're saying with the scalability. I can't wait to read that book. I know that PDA, we've lived through it. I've been in dentistry since 2011. So I've seen that big expansion, and you just took a stake and put it right in the heart. So Dwight, you water the roots. I can see the growth right away. You water the roots by looking at community and relationships, and your team love just came shouting through like a ray of sunshine. So you're watering the roots down there, and that's what ends up getting you this growth. So it's not about the billions, but you put the behaviors towards what you really want to go for, and the billions just sort of, they appear. And what an interesting background too, because Chad, we just interviewed doctors Eddie and Richard Lee,
Yep.
and they blew my mind. Their background, Dwight, was in production of a magic show, a television show, a magic television show, online producers, which they mocked up in their artistic way, a whole new logo for us.
Before
for our
they were
podcast.
even in dentistry, right?
Yeah, before they were even in dentistry. And then
didn't they like was it Lee that
Eddie.
The Gap show? Was it Eddie? Yeah, Eddie that managed the Gap.
Yes, Eddie managed the Gap, and he dealt with stock flow and all of that. So they developed their own scent that they have in Park Slope Dental as part of the experience. And it's just this brilliant little hacks like that, but it's based off their background. So Dwight, to hear your background, did I hear you right? You built a company previous to dentistry totally?
Yeah. So I ran an outsourcing company called Premier Outsourcing International out of South America. My family's originally from Argentina. And I spent a lot of my upbringing going back and forth. And I ended up here. My father came here to the States to Duke Medical School and did training there. And that's what brought our family up here. But I had a lot of good contacts and really relationships. And in college in particular, I spent a lot of time developing connections, right? It was about people needing other people and being able to create that scenario. And back in the day, I mean, it was about time zones and the complexity of time zones and having high levels of education. So I come from an area in Argentina where there's a high level of education. And just like, groups like clear aligner, groups like Invisalign, things like that, go down to Costa Rica and find a team to be able to support them with good education, good English, and then on top of that, having the capacity to do it. We did that out of an area called Cordoba in Argentina, and that's where my family's from. And so we created a lot of relationships and a lot of building of programming that companies in the U.S. needed that level of support. And I remember being told by a professor of mine as I was bloodshot coming in early in the morning to take a biochemistry exam, and it was Monday morning, and I had just flown in from Buenos Aires, and I had flown in and gotten in at 5, and I was taking the exam at 8, and I was like, let's go, let's do what do we need to do. And the professor was like, what is wrong with you? You need to sleep, or what's going on? I'm a little worried about you. And then of course my buddy next door, who was like messing with me, said, no, he just flew in from South America. And he's like, and he looked at me, he's like, you got to take yourself seriously and take your patients seriously and take care of it. And I was like, I love dental school. I mean, I was able to study the whole flight there, right? It was no problem. But I think to me, it was more about, I loved my team there and my team was there. And so whatever it is that I chose to do, I wanted to make sure that we built it around a sense of team, because you can literally do anything, and any good company develops and has longevity based on building teams in a way that they want to support each other. And so I was very passionate about doing that early on. It didn't really matter what I was doing. And so I decided to sell off and be done with some of that and then focus on building some other areas. And so in dental school, we ended up with some problems with dental labs. And so we did an outsource to Costa Rica for dental labs. And so I built a one to allow us to help the senior class and the junior class when I was in dental school be able to send our stuff out. So we built a contract with UT and did all that. And it was about, again, building connections between people. And I didn't realize how intimate those connections would be in the healthcare industry and in dentistry. And so that's why we've been able to kind of scale the process of building the business and the practices. And so I've really come to enjoy that. I've come to enjoy that on the patient care level. So I do practice. I'm now 2.5 days a week, I would say, max clinically. And the rest of the time I'm supporting my team from just an organizational standpoint.
Wow. It sounds to me like you want to or have or continue to master the inversion of the pyramid.
Yeah, it's really important to be what I believe is decentralization of decision making. So there's no reason that me as managing partner of a dental group should be involved in the decisions specifically of how hygiene is managing their periodontal program, right? So we have a leadership team within our system that hyper focuses on saying, hey, here's your hygiene liaison, your admin, clinical admin liaison, your surgical liaison, all these teams. And that team has their team, and they're in the trenches. They're helping make decisions because their team is going to be hyper affected by it. So we take the problem and then we disseminate it amongst the leadership team, and they come back with the solution. What they don't need is somebody from the top of the pyramid coming down, making a critical decision that affects them, affects their team, and affects their patients. And so we believe that is the model to potentially scale within dentistry without losing the quality of patient care and without losing control of that model. So every office,
you get out of the way of people being able to do their best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Yeah, I've got the same thing where someone will call and say, hey, can I do a lunch and learn with your admin team about this and that? And I'm just like, well, it's not up to me. I'm like, what? Why? Like, why are you like? And
you do say that.
Yeah. Well, I'm candid with people. Like, they look at me and I'm just like, no, if it looks like I don't know, like what their schedule for their meetings and stuff is, I don't know their schedule. It's just like, and I don't really want to know. And so, Dwight, I'm kind of on the same page with you with that. Is, someone will say, hey, can I talk to your hygiene team? But I think they're used to the dentist being the gatekeeper. But they'll say, hey, what kind of, is it okay if I came and talked to you about this electric toothbrush? And I'm just like, no, you'd have to run it by them. It's just like, why? Or, hey, we want to do this, this online scheduling thing. I'm like, well, talk to the admin team about that. If you can impress them, then it's done. Like, what do I care? And then after a couple months, I'll say, is that working? And they'll say no. And I'll be like, well, why don't you get rid of it? I don't know. Are you okay with that? It's like, yeah, just do it, but Reagan, me a little better. It's just like, I, just delegate that out. And so I'm glad to hear that that's working really well for you.
Yeah. And you're empowering your team, Chad. And I think that's
right.
Exactly what needs to happen, is allowing them to have an ownership of that process. I do believe that that's what keeps you from the scary scaling and commercialization of your practice, especially if you end up in multiple locations. We don't believe that the purpose of us to grow is some revenue sky high, hairy, audacious goal. Like, we actually believe that it's based on the community you serve. We happen to be in one of the fastest growing communities in the nation. You wouldn't need that. The truth is all of us have a tremendous amount of availability. If you're going to call your patients, you build a relationship with your patients, you check on them, you do your part, your team passionately does theirs. We all own it. The truth is your practice is going to grow. Our model is I know that if I go to the Richmond location, I go to Houston, I go here, even the New Grand Parkway location, I know that when I walk in there, it's going to have a feel of the community it serves. It's not going to have a Fort Bend Dental feel. There can be a brand, but it's relatively irrelevant. It's run by the team. They own it. And when I tend to see problems, it's because we're lacking a local leader, or they're lacking different things. It's not because they don't have access to the ability to make decisions. And so you have to give them resources and provide resources until they're capable of it. None of this stuff we're talking about is easy. It's kind of like when people ask me, well, how do you manage this situation or not? It's what Chad's saying. He doesn't manage it. He coaches it. He coaches somebody to be successful and gives them authority. Management is a super easy thing to do. Here's a giant handbook, do everything in this and never do anything outside of it. Coaching is the hard stuff. Nothing we're talking about is easy, but he's delegated because he's built trust and relationships with the people he works with, that they know they're not going to bring somebody in that's going to terrorize the company. That's
what, Dwight, though, it's kind of funny. I say it the opposite way. I go, it ain't rocket science. Like, you want to talk electric toothbrushes with my hygienist? Ask my hygienist to find some time to meet with them. So it's funny because I almost say it the other way. It's just like, why am I involved with this decision? Like it ain't rocket science. Just, we don't need to have a meeting about whether we should have a meeting. Like,
absolutely,
get on with it.
That's how it goes. That's what's used to. That's what our industry is used to, right? Like,
right.
They're expecting to go through that process, and then you're going to make a decision that the whole team hates, and then you're going to have to live through it and then go back and forth. And the truth is you don't want to be a part of it.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.